Karibuni. Yeah. Okay. Karibuni, Imagination TV. Welcome to Imagination TV. This is, whoops, a little bit of a lag there, guys. Sorry. Let's start again. Karibuni, Imagination TV. Welcome to Imagination TV. This is week 56. This is episode 56. This is week 12, and we are talking rebelliousness.
Yesterday on the show, we had an incredible panel of people to speak about what rebelliousness means to them. A few things that have stuck with me along this way is Cooper said rebelliousness is about being comfortable with standing alone. It's not everything. It's about not knowing everything. And it all starts with why. Cam spoke about taking risks and being comfortable with who we truly are. And Delvine said rebelliousness is being open to change. And a quote from her that's really stuck with me over the last 24 hours is about gentle yet radical work when we speak about rebelliousness. Ermin, how are you feeling to be a co-host on today's show?
Feeling good. I'm happy. Really excited actually, because today, again, we're on the continent of Africa. This is our second African special, and this is a truly Pan-African show today. We have people from West Africa, so joining us from Senegal and from Nigeria. In East Africa, joining us from Kenya on the panel and hosting, and some kids from Uganda joining us in the live chat. From South Africa, we've got panelists joining us from South Africa, and a little bit of Zimbabwe in the host as well. And I just forgot to mention our wizard today is also joining us from Kenya. We've got school principal, live audience from Nigeria, from South Africa too. So this is really it. Really excited about that.
Yeah, we're definitely bringing the full show for everyone around the world today, showing them, I suppose, truly how global AIM is. We started our global chapter 3 years ago, which was only a couple of days ago when we initially launched it with our COGS video. And since then, we've been able to meet incredible people around the world, 3 of which came into AIM 3 years ago, which is Siaka, Bem, and Vitali, who are running the program on the ground out of South Africa, Nigeria, and Uganda. And because of the incredible work they've been able to do there, we've also been able to be connected to Saru, who's running the program in Zimbabwe. So I'm incredibly grateful and thankful to be able to work with these incredible leaders that we have around the world. And yeah, I'm also fortunate that I was able to meet you along the way, Ermin. Do you want to tell people maybe a little bit about how you came to AIM and came to be on Imagination TV today?
Thanks, Ree. My name is Ermin, as we said. I am the Deputy Director of Communications at AIM, which means really trying to grow our global movement, reach as far out as we can into the world, and make as much impact for marginalized kids as we can through mentoring and through imagination. That's my role in a nutshell. How I came to AIM. I met a young man called Kabir Danji here in Kenya one night. And he asked if I wanted to come on board as a features editor of a magazine with a pretty unlikely name. I won't say the name because we're launching a little bit later this year, so I don't want to, no spoilers here. And he said it was a magazine that was for mentoring, and he used the expression maverick ideas. And maverick, some of the definitions of the word maverick: nonconformist, a free spirit, an outsider, a rebel. So I actually came to AIM through rebelliousness.
I love that. And we can always count on Mr. Danji himself to provide that level of rebellion across the organization. We do have some comments coming through the chat line. Atlanta Lloyd has said, love it, Ermin, so excited for you. Blake has said, gentle yet radical work. Hannah James has said, yes, Ermin, with 2 praying hands. Will Wensley said, so glad to have Africa hosting today. We have a partner school with us. We have Dugiri Model School from Nigeria. Bem is our program manager in Nigeria, who originally started working for us at AIM in Melbourne with the African Australian program, and decided to move back home to his country of Nigeria, and along his way set up the AIM program in absolute record time because he wanted to be able to work with kids. So we've got the principal on the show today. We've got some students from various parts of Africa on the show today, as Ermin's just said. In our live audience, we have Yusuf and Kumo. How are we feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Thank you.
Lovely. What do you want to get out of Imagination TV and being an audience member? I think that response is a lot. What's the quote they say, Ermin, about like sometimes silence speaks louder than words or something? Is that right?
Yeah, and also silence is golden. And in French, when there's a comfortable silence, we say un ange passe, an angel is passing.
Perfect. Lots of angels passing, silence, moments of golden stuff, and it's happening. Our principal today is Mrs. Bobo. How are you doing? Do we have you on the line? Maybe we do not. I'm pretty sure we recorded a pre-record for this exact moment in case the internet cuts out across the various countries. Let's flick through to that pre-recorded video of Mrs. Bobo doing the 60-second challenge.
Good day, everyone. I'm here in Nigeria in Adamawa State, and I'm here with the Vice Principal of Dogiri Model School, the very first AIM school in Nigeria. Welcome, Mrs. Bobo, to the show.
Thank you.
Today we are about to take on the 60-second challenge. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go. What is your idea of perfect happiness?
I think perfect happiness is having everything in life.
Okay, when and where are you happiest?
I'm happiest when I'm with my family.
Which talent would you most like to have?
I think I need to do better in life.
On what occasion are you out of your comfort zone?
When I'm out of my comfort zone, I think when I'm not at my place of work or when I'm not with my family.
Okay, what would you like to see humans do more of?
To be kind and honest at all times.
Which living person do you most admire?
My father.
What do you most consider your greatest achievement?
I think my greatest achievement in life is reaching to where I am right now.
If you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, what would it be?
I would like to be myself.
Where would you most like to live?
Here in Adamawa State.
What is your most treasured asset?
I think my most treasured asset is my religion.
Okay, 60 seconds go.
Okay, our next 60-second challenge is Mr. Abdullahi Usman Babani from the Federal College of Education in Yola. Mr. Usman, can you hear us? Mr. Usman? Mr. Usman, you might be on mute.
Hello, I can hear you.
Great. Are you ready for the 60-second challenge?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can somebody time us? 60 seconds starting now. What do you most value in your friends?
Pardon?
What do you most value in your friends?
Honesty.
Who are your favorite writers?
Honesty. William Shakespeare and Bugi wa Thiong'o.
Who is your hero of fiction?
William.
Which historical
Hello?
figure do you most... Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Which historical figure do you
Chinua
most
Achebe.
identify with?
Chinua Achebe.
Okay, there's a bit of a
Hello?
lag. We can hear you. There's a bit of a
Yes.
lag.
Okay.
Next
Alright.
question.
Yeah.
Who are your
Yes.
heroes in real life?
My parents.
What are your
My
favorite
parents.
names? Yes, we heard you. Thank you, Mr. Usman. Next question. What are your favorite names?
Usman.
That's a good one. What is it
Yes.
that you most dislike?
Dishonesty.
What's your idea of freedom? Freedom.
To practice what is in your mind the way you want it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Usman. I think we went past the 60 seconds, but that's okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for leading that, Erman. We still have a lot of comments coming in. Katarina has said, ready for anything that is thrown at you guys. Thomas said, yes, our first AIM school in Nigeria. Arabella Douglas has said, my religion. I love that answer. And Arabella's also said, Shakespeare, interesting. Maddie has also said, love that we give 60-second answers. Do you want to introduce who the next segment is for our wizard, Erman?
So we have 180 seconds of wizardry coming up with Nyamwasi Gishao, who is based here in Kenya, yoga instructor, head wrap stylist, and she's going to give us a great little tutorial.
Hello everyone, my name is Nyamwasi Gishao and I am a wizard of many hats. I'm a head wrap stylist, a yoga teacher, a writer, and a creative. Today, however, we shall focus on head wrap styling. So a head wrap is like a crown that you wear and shape yourself using simple cloth. Let's begin. I'd like to show you how to transform a simple scarf into something like this. So you take your regular pashmina and you give it a hem, folding it in a little bit like this. This hem allows you to place it on your head without causing a line wherever it passes on your forehead. And so with this hem, I'm going to place this on my head just like I would if I was completely covering my hair. So just down to my forehead or my hairline, depending on how far forward or how far back you want to wear it. And make sure you place it in a perfect half so that you've got both ends wrapping around easily. And so I've placed my hem right here, and I begin now to bring both of the ends together. A very simple twist around, okay? So it's just one twist, nothing too complicated. Twisting around, And now make sure you tug it so that it is nice and tight. Hold one with your opposite arm in order to maintain the tightness. And with the other one, then all you simply do is pass it around like that. And I wrap it one more time around and then tuck it underneath the first fold. Okay, simple. So all we're going to do is repeat the same thing on the other side. And if you want to add an extra layer, you can do the exact same thing we did before with this. I want to start with placing the hem behind. With my two edges, I'm going to crisscross them in front. So we're doing the same thing we did before, but in the reverse. And what you'll find is within less than 3 minutes, a simple crown. And allows you to look absolutely glamorous with minimal effort.
And my friend, you were on mute and I could see you started that so enthusiastically.
This is my debut, and it's really the art of stumbling and getting back up and going for it. So here we go. Thanks for that. That was great. That was a great tutorial. We're now going to move to the panel. And on our panel today, we have three pretty amazing guests. We have Valerie Traore, based in Senegal. We have Tatu Gatere, based in Kenya, and Akiva Beebe, based in South Africa. Akiva, let's start with you. Tell us about yourself, how you've landed on IMAGI-NATION TV.
So how I landed here is the easiest part. I've got a cousin of mine who lives in Australia who happens to be part of your organization. So that was an easy one, right? We were chatting about some stuff, and he said, "Hey, come on, join aboard here." The work I do, the work that kind of fires me up, I guess, for lack of better words, so I guess your topic's quite topical, maverick, radical outsider, whatever you want to call it, because the work that I've been involved with over the years have been sort of on the fringes as it comes to the core, which is really around, initially years ago was around sort of helping education move towards digital. This is sort of almost 20 years ago, kind of moved an organization, 300, 400 students to growing to over 30,000 students a year, which is pretty cool. Really kind of making and democratizing a lot of education in some ways. And the work that I've been involved with until now is really in sort of what we call the digital transformation space. So in layman's terms, it means big organizations, your massive global Fortune 500, and really how to help them become truly digital organizations where they sort of really digitize, not just taking on new technology, but just new ways of thinking and partnering. So what's really interesting with digital transformation, it really calls on a very different way of thinking. So when you think about the idea of a maverick, an outsider, those rebels, a lot of those interesting rebels are the ones who are really coming in and really bringing in a lot of the new digital disruption. And so really helping big organizations partner with those kind of people. And I guess my key message to everyone is as you unpack your own journey, we kind of need those outside thinkers who can solve very complex problems in a better way. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And
Okay,
by the way,
thanks for that, Akiva. We're just going to jump to Valerie now. Val, great to see you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you've landed on IMAGI-NATION TV, and what the link is between today's theme, rebelliousness, and design. You've been designing campaigns, and tell us about the link there.
Hi everyone. Thank you. Also, how I landed here is the easy part, of course, with my relationship, and I've known you, Airman, for forever. It feels like now. What I do is I run an organization called NIEL, and it's an advocacy and campaigns firm that does most of its work in Africa, although beyond as well. And I guess the easiest way to say what we do is that rebelliousness is also about passion. It's about wanting a sense of injustice, a sense of what you feel like, what your truth is. And sometimes we don't necessarily know how to turn that passion into something that's actionable, into something that actually can change what we want. And so what I do is work with individuals, work with movements, work with youth groups, work with on so many different issues, be it health and education, to turn this passion and turn this sense of what we want to do into something that actually changes policy, changes practices, and changes behaviors. And I think that it starts with every individual having a passion for something. And every individual, I think rebelliousness is also about being at peace with who you are, just understanding that you walk this earth as a full, whole, beautiful person, and that person, that individual has so many things that they want to see the world be better at. Now, what I do, which is in link to that, is how do you then turn that into something actionable?
Thanks, Val. That was amazing. I really like the idea of rebelliousness also meaning being at peace with who you are as a person. And we often tend to think of rebellion and rebelliousness as, we're out there in the streets and we're raising our fist and we're doing all of that and we're shouting and we're questioning. And we sometimes forget to think about the peace side and how you need to be so very firm and steady within yourself. So thanks for that. Tatu, you're doing some great work that's a little bit nonconformist in a lot of ways. So I guess tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing and what imagination means to you and rebelliousness in the work that you do.
So my name is Tatu Gatere. I am the CEO and co-founder of BuildHer. And what we do is we empower women through connecting construction skills training to employment. So my background is architecture, and when I came back, I studied abroad, but when I came back to Kenya, was questioning the quality of construction and how we as a community could, get to contribute to what we were building, because it will affect future generations. And so found that training communities in construction was important, but then looking at women and how we're excluded from the conversation of infrastructure, design, architecture development, and wanting women to be involved. And so founding an organization that does that. I think what imagination and rebelliousness means to me is evident in my life journey. I think having come from a colonized continent, going to study in America and coming back, just finding that my community and I were sort of stuck to a path that we didn't really have any, we didn't really take authority and ownership of our own paths, and questioning how I could change that conversation for myself and my community. And so it first began with imagining a better future, imagining what things would look like if we weren't restricted to conditions that were created before our time, questioning what we would add and what we would take away. And I find our rebelliousness is very much what Valerie said. For me, it's about connecting back to me. And I consider it doing things for me, but connecting for we. So how do I get back to me, my authenticity, my true self? And then how do I connect that to a global and local conversation for my community and for the world at large? This could be the earth, this could be climate, this could be the construction sector. But first looking at you and what your contribution is, and then questioning how you're adding value to a larger conversation.
Oh, thank you for that, Tatu. There's so much in there, so much in what you just said, and so much of what you just said reflects or calls out some of AIM's values around knowing yourself, around flipping the script and not remaining within the narrative, the predetermined narrative that defines your life, whether it's around disadvantage, your place in society, whatever that might be, and about making change, stepping out of your comfort zone, all of those things, and in Valerie's response, Akiva's as well. So we're really looking at some of the values of AIM in this. When it comes to rebelliousness, I'll go back to you, Val, and then we'll go back to Akiva for one more question. When it comes to rebelliousness, what is probably the most imaginative change campaign that you've ever designed that brought imagination and rebelliousness and change together?
Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, did that on purpose.
There are so many. And so many that have brought change, but so many also that have failed and fallen flat on their face because of either it wasn't rebellious enough or because it wasn't imaginative enough. So on both sides, you have that. And I think that's where the lesson is. I think probably just to go, the one that sort of makes me think continent-wide is a campaign that we designed around engaging young people and young Africans around the African Union, not as an institution, but around what does Africa mean to us? And how do we then step in and say, if I'm sitting in Senegal and something is happening in Zimbabwe or something is happening in DRC, I am able to mobilize my own network and be able to get all of my people to step and act on behalf of. What you've seen a lot around the continent is because our media obviously is being managed from outside the continent, because we don't control the media that we receive, that the things that get pumped up are in many ways stuff that happens outside the continent, which has value itself, but we're not really able to tag into our own networks to support things that happen next door. So this campaign was called Play for the Union. And it really identified individuals that had small organizations, movements in 22 African countries. That would be if you go and try to get your voter's card tomorrow and you're unable to because somebody doesn't want to give it to you because you didn't pay, that 21 other people would mobilize and support you in being able to raise the issue. And that was so beautiful in a way that it started and actually started making changes around rights of people with disabilities. And then what I say about imagination is because it turned, and we didn't control that campaign in the end. It's something that we designed for a movement, and we started it, and it turned into an organization that said all the 22 movements would sign a petition. And this is where you go from creative, daring, and imaginative to let's sign a petition of 100,000 signatures to send to the AU as an institution. So I think sometimes we leave this personal passion and this be you and let the drive that gets you to that issue and turn into very structured processes, institution that take this fire outside of people. And I don't want to hold on the floor too long, but I think this was one that was very close to my heart, and that kind of initiative is still the things that are very close to my heart.
I really like that, Valerie, to take the fire outside of people and get that fire to burn. This reminds me of James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, which we're sort of seeing a little bit right now. Akiva, you talked about a little while ago about democratizing education. What do you see as the role of imagination, education, rebelliousness in the digital the digital work that you're doing in the kind of transformation and change that Valerie was talking about? And that's a tough question too.
It's a tough question, but one that I often think about. I mean, what's amazing is the new technologies that are around today, whether it's artificial intelligence, blockchain, they provided the opportunity for, if you have a big enough imagination, you can solve really big problems. Because of digital, what it's done, it's connected everyone around the world. But not only that, and because of what AI is able to do, is your artificial intelligence, that is you're able to really, if your imagination can really thrive in terms of looking at a complex problem and looking at how systemic it is, how it impacts the whole world. If you apply your thinking to that, you can literally transform the whole of education at a fraction of the price that any of us thought was possible a few years ago. You can transform, I mean, just if you look around all of us today, we're all using digital. That happened, we were all, whether we wanted to or not, we were all forced into it because of the sort of the COVID virus. But again, one of the big opportunities for all of us out there, and I throw this challenge to everyone, is the new emerging technologies, blockchain, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, etc. It needs the rebels out there, the mavericks out there, to step into this space, because with your imagination, what you can accomplish and what you can solve today is quite remarkable. And it really, more and more what we're seeing is those who have the imagination and then the ability to form the right partnerships. And sort of what Valerie was saying earlier, I thought was great as well, that ability to look across to your neighbor and being able to connect them. I mean, digital makes it even much easier for us to do that as well. But then when we start actually bringing diverse thinkers in from, especially Africa, I mean, whenever I speak to people overseas, they think Africa is one big home. They don't realize it's like 57 different countries with 57 completely different ways of thinking and mindsets. How do you coordinate some of those, great diverse thinkers to kind of solve our continent problems. So when you talk about education, the biggest education is start with ourselves, to kind of just open our mind up to what's possible. And my big message I bring to everyone is get seriously educated on the new technologies, because it's the future, and it's not going back in time. So if you're not in it, you're going to be left behind. And if you're part of it, you can solve amazing problems. So that's maybe a simple little answer to a very loaded question.
Well, thank you so much. You did a great job with that. And I really like what you just said. If you have a big enough imagination, you can solve big problems. Tatu, what's your take on that one?
My take, that's a big question.
Only big questions today. It's a big continent, big questions.
I mean, I think going back to imagination and knowledge, I think one of the things I feel holds people back in terms of progress, change, and transformation is the limitations of what exists in your reality. And I feel one of the things that has helped me, the reason I went into training women in construction was my frustration with how we were building and who was building. I had no idea how I could change this narrative. I had no idea if I had anything to contribute, but I just imagined things could be different, and I got curious about how to do that. And then, because I didn't have all the answers, back to what Akiva said, I went out and I looked for partners, looked for people who are addressing the problem, and tried to partner with them and learn from them. And then through that process of curiosity, I discovered that I actually had something to offer the conversation. And I had a fresh new approach, and I had a new thinking that could help bring us closer to a solution. So I would say, for me, one of the things that goes with imagination, one of the things that goes into creating knowledge and transformation is curiosity. That's the biggest thing I've had in my life. I lost my passion, actually, with what Valerie was saying. I'm a very passionate person, but I absolutely, completely lost my passion 10 years ago. And the only way I got it back and got to a place I am today, which is healthy, is curiosity. What can I do? Who's doing it? How can I meet them? What can I learn?
Thanks for that, Tatu. We've just got some great comments coming in from the chat line. We've got Philip Lim, who says, great use of networks to mobilize actions. Penny, with your imagination, what you can accomplish and solve today is incredible. Well said. That allows us to imagine the possibilities. We've got Imagination TV has taught me that there are so many good people out there who stand for the truth, equality, change, and imagination. That's from It's Not Black and White. Philip Lim, great to hear your contributions, Tatu. So yeah, we've had some really great contributions in here. And what I'm hearing from all of you is there's an aspect of building, there's an aspect of inclusion, there's an aspect of learning and teaching, and all of that is great. Ree, do you have any particular questions you want to throw at our panel today? And then we'll open it up to see if they've got questions for each other.
Yeah, I think I would just love to know, so at AIM, we work with kids around the world, and in Africa we've got setups across 4 countries now. And do you think rebellion is taught? Do you think it's learned? Or do you, like, how do you encourage kids to rebel in the correct ways? I'm just going to leave that open for whoever thinks they have a response for that question.
I'll chirp in.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think if you talk about constructive rebelliousness, where you're able to really challenge outdated assumptions, outdated beliefs, to kind of recreate something much better and healthier. I mean, I think definitely it comes from those who are closest to you, your community, your friends, your family. So to be around people who are continuously questioning outdated assumptions that are not necessarily working, who are willing to kind of step up and speak the truth, right? That kind of starts initially with your community, your core people around you. And then if you get that right, you can kind of grow that to a bigger community. And I think that's what he's trying to do.
Thanks, Akiva. Tatu, you wanted to jump in on that one.
Yes, I mean, I wanted to say what my experience has been is there are some people who are born with it. And I think I was born with I really believe that as humans, we have the answer, which is often what's not taught to us as kids in our churches or in our homes, but I believed we were born whole and that we had the answer. But then I noticed that I met people who didn't have that rebelliousness, who were taught that rebelliousness by their parents, and that's trusting yourself and questioning what is. You don't have to first fight against it, but first question it. And so I've come to believe that there are three avenues. There's growing up and you just find it's in you. There's being taught by your community and learning what's around you. And there's another approach where you purposely go out and question for yourself because you want to contribute.
All are
Thanks,
very...
Tatu.
One thing, and in agreement with both what Tatu and Akiva has said about this, I think the biggest and the first act of rebelliousness that anybody can have is just being yourself in a world that tells you, be different in this way, be different socially, be different educationally, be different in what you look like, how you think, what you choose to do. To go into construction as a woman is not okay. Just being you and addressing the world as your whole you is the biggest act of rebelliousness that anybody can have. Our education system, unfortunately, does not teach that traditionally, but I think part of it is the first thing that we can teach people is teach them to question. Because even when as a young person you have these, what I am does not fit with what I'm told, to question that is the first act of rebelliousness that you could have. So I say just going back at the core, and I appreciated the two people that did the 60-second, both of them said, my father and my parents. And I think some of that, when education system does not teach that, when you're able to have a family, a community, as Akiva was saying, that helps you see your whole, then that is already a starting point to rebelliousness.
Thanks, Val. Wow, amazing. We've had some really amazing responses today, and we've still got some comments coming in from the chat line. We've got Tom Wensley says, Akiva, surround yourself with people who question outdated assumptions. Brendan Newton, it's almost like curiosity is the opposite of anxiety and fear. Lisa Toulin is telling us, I think rebelliousness can be learned, but that it is most often a reaction to feeling uncomfortable or even a bit angered with the way things are. Arabella Douglas says you can support courage and courageous living. Courage is contagious, and often being alone is a lonely journey. So thanks very much for that. What is the next?
Yeah, do any of our panelists today have any questions for one another after you've been able to hear about what everyone's doing in the continent of Africa? Yeah, do you have any questions for each other?
I have a question for Valerie. And just because you spoke about passion, and I think one of the things I speak to in my mentorship is to people who don't have passion, because I was that person, so I totally get that journey. What would you advise someone who has no passion and doesn't know where to start, and they feel lost and confused, but they kind of want to say something and be something and mean something? What would you advise them to do to build that passion or to learn how to have passion?
Well, I do think everybody has passion. I think they may not have discovered what it is, but I think it exists. I think as human beings, we're groomed, or we're built to want something bigger, better for the world. The only thing I would say to somebody is we don't often sit with ourselves. So we're always distracted, and we take in things and we take in media and I think somebody in the comments talked about anxiety, and that anxiety means you're not listening to what's at your core. And we're so afraid to sit and say, let the wave come, let the anxiety come, let it teach me what it is that I desire so much. What am I afraid of? Because even if you don't know what you want, once you start paying attention to what you're afraid of, it can be such a good trigger. And what angers you, such a good trigger to actually go out and find that passion. I do think we all have it. We may not have discovered it, but it's there.
Thank you. Great answer.
To our kids in the audience today, Yusuf, Kumo, and Munaratu, how are we feeling after today? Do you have any thoughts, questions, ideas, or a response of what rebelliousness means to you? Any of you on the line? You want to just pop yourself off mute?
My internet is not responding.
Rebelliousness is a kind of
resisting to authority, control, or convention, or resisting to people in authority. That's what rebelliousness means to me.
Very, very considered and thoughtful response. Thank you so much for that. Kumo, do you have a response about what rebelliousness means to you? If you just click the bottom left-hand corner, there we go.
Rebellious.
What does rebelliousness mean to you?
When you don't listen to your parents.
When you're being naughty.
Yeah.
Have you got in trouble for being naughty recently?
Yes.
Small acts of rebelliousness against our parents is what I live for.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for the people that are in our panel today?
Not really, but then I loved the way Valerian explained that we all have passion and we have to battle with it.
It was so well put, and I'm very glad that you've re-highlighted that as we end out this segment. So thank you so much. Ermin, would you like to close us out for the day and reflect on what this journey has been for you?
Yeah, well, first thing is thanks to everyone who's been on the panel, in the virtual audience, in the live chat. It's been a great discussion. I think some of the things that have really jumped out at me today, if you have a big enough imagination, you can solve big problems. As humans, we have the answer, they're within us. And we can create change from that. And pay attention to what you're afraid of, because that can be a driving force in taking you forward in rebelling against particular things. And the very last thought that I'd like to leave us all with is your biggest act of rebelliousness is being yourself, being your whole self. So a lot of great messages that we've got there for young people, for all of us, actually. So thank you very much for that. Ree, over to you.
Thank you for that wonderful reflection of what today has been, Ermin. It's been an absolute honor being able to host alongside you. Hopefully there's many more of these to come. And thank you for our guests in the audience and the students on the learners on the call who've been able to join us today and share your knowledge and wisdom and insights, and know that we're committed to ever being able to work alongside you guys and with the kids in Africa and across the different countries that we're operating in. See, there's so much global language that's going around in my head that I just can't get it right because everything's different. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom and for joining us for another episode of IMAGI-NATION TV. This wraps us up for today, and we'll see everyone tomorrow back on the Australian time zone. Bye, crew.